Keterlibatan golongan belia dalam kerja-kerja berkebajikan adalah amat diperlukan. Bukan sahaja untuk kepentingan masing-masing, malahan juga untuk kepentingan bersama seluruh warga di rantau ini. Belia adalah penggerak dan pemangkin serba mampu untuk melakukan apa jua yang terbaik bagi bangsanya. Kerana itu, kelebihan yang ada ini perlulah dibuktikan oleh para belia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening. I'm Hajah Kartini Dewi Abdullah. Welcome to News at 10 and the top stories for tonight. The house construction project of the Brunei Islamic Religious Council strives to generate income for socio-economic development in the country. The country's sole participant in the International Pars Wushu Cup raises the country's name after winning 2 gold medals and 1 bronze medal. The Brunei Islamic Religious Council MUIB, through its Tanmiyah or development body, strives to generate income for socio-economic development in the country. One of its efforts is the construction of 3-story houses in Kampung Pengkalan Gadong. The houses are being built on land owned by the Baitul Mal. The foundation stone was laid by Datuk Paduka Awang Haji Abdul Mukti bin Haji Muhammad Daud. The Deputy Minister of Religious Affairs is the chairman of the Board of Directors of the Badan Tanmiyah Harta or Property Development Body of MUIB. The construction on a 0.109-acre site is expected to take a year. Also present were members of the body's Board of Directors and senior officers of the Brunei Islamic Religious Council Department.
Pembinaan rumah ini adalah salah satu daripada plan strategik pelaburan Badan Tanmiyah yang juga bertepatan dengan misi Harta Majlis Ugama Islam Brunei bagi maksud menjana pendapatan yang tetap dan menjurus kepada pembangunan sosio-ekonomi umat Islam di negara Brunei Darussalam.
A national wushu athlete has raised the country's name after bagging 2 gold medals as well as a bronze medal at the 6th International Pars Wushu Cup that took place in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Awang Muhammad Adi Salihin bin Roslan won the gold medals in the Nandao and Nanquan event and earned the bronze medal in the Nangun event. 14 nations took part in a 3-day competition that began last Saturday. They included Afghanistan, Singapore, Indonesia, India and Bulgaria. Awang Muhammad Adi Salihin is the only Bruneian athlete who took part in this year's competition, and his achievement can act as an encouragement to other athletes and raise the country's prestige and excellence in sports.
Okay, look.
The welfare and well-being of the country's citizens and residents are always the government's top priorities. Details next, but first this excerpt of His Majesty's Tita. The welfare and well-being of the country's citizens and residents are always the government's top priorities. The government also strives to ensure these will continue to be enjoyed by the people of today and the future generations. The efforts include providing assistance and organizing programs covering personal capacity building, health services, electricity and water supplies, housing, road networks, as well as other basic amenities. Improving the welfare of the public is a major focus of the national budget for the financial year 2017-2018. In support of the said priorities, activities organized under the weekly Bandar Kuchuriya program have received encouraging response. Apart from encouraging people to practice a healthy and active lifestyle, the program is also intended to maintain well-being or prosperity as well as solidarity. Ensuring top-quality health services is among the priorities in maintaining the welfare and well-being of the country's citizens and residents. This includes provisions for buying medicines, medical supplies and services, the cost of sending patients for overseas treatment and the treatment of patients at specialized treatment centers such as the JPMC, Brunei Cancer Center and the Brunei Neuroscience and Stroke Rehabilitation Center. In the aspect of public facilities, the provisions for assets maintenance as well as the maintenance of public facilities and infrastructure and the upgrading of electrical power supply in the country are also provided. Affordable housing for low and mid-income citizens has been taken into proper consideration. Several public infrastructure projects such as bridges and roads are underway. An integrated and more organized road transport system is another evidence of the government's care and concern for the people, especially in addressing the increasing number of vehicles and improving the safety of road users. As part of measures to maintain and protect the people's security, well-being and health, the updating and streamlining of a number of import duties under the Custom Import Duties Order 2012 and Excise Duties Order 2012 are being implemented and were enforced starting on the 1st of April 2017. Through the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, several programs are implemented to improve the personal or self-capacity of welfare aid recipients to enable them to gain the appropriate employment or jobs. This provides them the opportunity to increase their income for the betterment of their own socio-economy. The government has also created a diversity of programs for self-improvement, especially among job seekers. This include the Youth Entrepreneurship Program, National Service or PKBN Program, and using the Youth Center as a venue for youth to operate and gain income.
Untuk menjaga dan meningkatkan kesejahteraan awam itu, kami sebagai belia memanfaatkan apa yang telah disediakan oleh kerajaan. Apalagi masa ini kerajaan sudah banyak memberi berbagai inisiatif, terutama sekali bandar ceria itulah dari segi kesihatan
kepada individu-individu dan remaja-remaja masa kini mungkin boleh menolong kerajaan untuk lebih produktif seperti menonjolkan lebih kepada hal-hal yang volunteering supaya itu dapat membagi khidmat kepada negara, membagi contribution yang sangat berharga.
Saya sebagai belia menyokong akan idea yang telah diberi oleh pihak kerajaan. Bagi saya perkara ini perlu dilanjutkan lebih lagi, terutama pada golongan belia yang akan datang untuk menuju wawasan 2035.
All the government's efforts and provisions are meant to ensure the people will experience and enjoy continuous welfare and prosperity. For this, the people should be grateful and appreciate the prosperity and well-being so that the unity, peace and security will also be enjoyed by future generations. More news coming up after these commercials.
Wow! Welcome to Pizza Hut. We are here for Dapatkan wow deals dari Pizza Hut. Dapatkan pan pizza serendah RM5 hanya untuk bawa balik dan makan di restoran sahaja. Masa adalah terhad.
%100 dibuat dari daun teh asli, bukan dari ekstrak seperti yang lain. Rasakan perbezaan teh hijau yang sebenar. Beralih ke Petikan, jenama nombor 1 di Singapura.
Wow! 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 Welcome to Pizza Hut. We are here for Dapatkan wow deals dari Pizza Hut. Dapatkan pan pizza serendah RM5 hanya untuk bawa balik dan makan di restoran sahaja. Masa adalah terhad.
Welcome back. The Zainal Agriculture Farm at the Batumpu Agricultural Development Area in Kampung Masin has attracted the attention of a delegation who are taking part in the upgrading the capability of Single Mothers Program conducted by the Yayasan Sultan Haji Hassanal Bolkiah and Afdal Training Consultant. During the visit, the delegation comprising of 27 single mothers were briefed and given the opportunity to harvest local crops.
Kami amat bersyukur dan mudah-mudahan dengan adanya pendedahan seperti ini akan membuka mata-mata para ibu yang supaya tidak kita ni punya idea atau tidak terhad pada sesuatu saja. Alhamdulillah, ia sangat membuka minda kata ni, membuka minda para kami yang ibu tunggalan ni lah, supaya kami dapat bergerak dan tidak bergantung penuh pada gaji semata-mata ataupun bantuan-bantuan yang ada diberikan oleh pihak kerajaan.
Memang bagus program ini, bagus sekali menolong ibu-ibu tunggal yang ada pekerjaan seperti saya kan, untuk pengetahuan kami luas daripada yang sebelumnya lah.
Apart from cultivating several types of vegetables and fruits, the 10-acre farm also has a fish pond. The entrepreneurial visit aimed to provide exposure to the participants on the existing business sector that can be found in the country and introducing them to the business and entrepreneurial sectors. In the afternoon, the delegation visited a small enterprise food incubator center in Kilanas to take a closer look at the food processing trial carried out at the center. Such a visit aimed to encourage single mothers to be involved in commercial enterprises. The Yayasan Sultan Haji Hassanal Bolkiah's initiative in conducting the Upgrading the Capability of Single Mothers program ensures that single mothers will have assistance in the field of entrepreneurship, even though it is only on a small scale. The program is a continuation of the entrepreneurship course held several weeks ago. According to Dayang Haja Donaliza binti Abdullah Puasa, Assistant Managing Director of Yayasan Sultan Haji Hassanal Bolkiah, such a visit also aimed to enhance their skills and competency so that they are capable of improving their standard of living.
kepada ibu tunggal ini supaya mereka lebih mengetahui macam mana mempackage barang-barang mereka supaya ia lebih atraktif ataupun lebih menarik dan menarik minat orang-orang pembelinya. Jadi usaha seperti ini adalah merupakan satu daripada inisiatif yayasan dalam meningkatkan upayaan mereka ataupun kompetensi mereka agar mereka lebih berusaha dan juga meningkatkan taraf sara hidup mereka sendiri ya.
The country's taxi system is offering services not only to overseas tourists and visitors but to passengers at all levels. The service connects all strategic locations and destinations in the country, and taxi drivers can be called to pick up passengers at any point. Friendly and trustworthy, the taxi service is ready to serve you. Now we look at the Nisab Zakat of tithe rates for cash and property. Moving on to the foreign exchange rates between the Brunei dollar and some of the international and regional currencies. Moving on to world news and the top stories for tonight. Topping our world news, United States President Donald Trump's National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said in Kabul that both ISIS and the Taliban must be defeated in Afghanistan. Mr. McMaster's visit, the first high-level visit by a Mr. Trump official in Kabul, came just after the U.S. military dropped a GBU-43 massive ordnance air blast bomb, one of the largest conventional weapons ever used in combat, during an operation against IS militants in eastern Afghanistan. Mr. McMaster met President Ashraf Ghani and other senior Afghan officials to discuss bilateral ties, security, counter-terrorism, reforms and development, according to a palace statement. Mr. Ghani told Mr. McMaster that terrorism is a serious issue for the security of the world and the region, and if serious steps are not taken, it would affect generations of people. The Afghan government refers to both the Taliban and IS as terrorists.
Irreconcilable, who are now willing to join their Afghan.
Mr. McMaster praised U.S. and Afghan soldiers' work towards defeating both groups and added the Afghan government would welcome those who are now reconcilable, who are now willing to join the Afghan brothers to strengthen the Afghan state to end the violence. He also spoke about the United States' concerns about Russia's presence in Afghanistan and its interactions with Taliban fighters, saying no one should support the Taliban.
And so what we would like is all countries in the region to play a productive role, a positive role, and to help the Afghan people rather than to try.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence put North Korea on notice neither the United States nor South Korea would tolerate further missile and nuclear tests by their reclusive state, with U.S. attacks in Syria and Afghanistan showing its resolve. Mr. Pence and South Korean Acting President Wang Kyo-an, speaking a day after a failed missile test by the North and 2 days after a huge display of missiles in Pyongyang, also said they would strengthen anti-North Korea defenses by moving ahead with the early deployment of the U.S. Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System THAAD. But Mr. Pence and Mr. Wang said they were troubled by retaliatory moves by China against the deployment of THAAD.
대비 태세를 더욱 강화하기로 하였습니다.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence looked across the demilitarized border DMZ between North and South Korea a day after North Korea's failed missile launch, reiterating that the U.S. era of strategic patience with Pyongyang was over. Mr. Pence is on the first stop of a four-nation Asia tour intended to show America's allies and remind its adversaries that the Trump administration is not turning its back on the increasingly volatile region. The DMZ is a heavily mined 4 kilometers wide strip of land lined with barbed wire running across the Korean peninsula, with soldiers on both sides in a continual eyeball-to-eyeball standoff. Meanwhile, President Trump's national security advisor said, citing what he called an international consensus to act, the United States, its allies and China are working together on a range of responses to North Korea's latest failed ballistic missile tests. In the meantime, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe told Parliament that he approved the U.S. stance on dealing with North Korea, while the government considers required actions if there is a flow of refugees from the Korean peninsula in case of an escalated conflict.
外交努力を通じて平和を守ることが重要であるとは言うまでもありません。同時に対話のための対話では意味がない。
Turkey's opposition stepped up its objections to the conduct of a referendum that gave President Recep Tayyip Erdogan sweeping new powers by a narrower than expected margin and exposed bitter divisions in the country. The yes camp won 51.41% in yesterday's referendum on a new presidential system and no 48.59% according to near-complete results released by the election authorities. The head of the board said that ballots and envelopes provided to voters in Turkey's referendum were produced by the High Electoral Board (YSK) and valid. Speaking to reporters in Ankara, YSK chairman Sadi Güven said a last-minute decision by the board to allow unstamped ballots in the referendum was not unprecedented, as their government had previously permitted such a move. The No campaign has said the decision raised questions about the validity of the vote. Following the vote, Güven said the decision was taken before results were entered into the system and that members of the ruling AK party and the main opposition were present at almost all polling stations and signed off on reports.
Olduğu iddia edilip ispat edilmediği sürece.
Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe received a state welcoming ceremony in Hanoi before sitting down for talks with his Vietnamese counterpart Nguyen Xuan Phuc, kicking off a 3-day official visit aimed at bolstering ties. Mr. Wickremesinghe said the visit hoped to build up a trade of $1 billion between the two countries while offering an opportunity to exchange views and look for areas for cooperation. Vietnam and Sri Lanka established diplomatic ties in 1970. Trade between the two countries reached $192 million in 2015 and $325.6 million in 2016, according to Vietnam's Chamber of Commerce. During Mr. Wickremesinghe's visit, he is expected to meet President Tran Dai Quang and General Secretary of the Communist Party Nguyen Phu Trong, as well as preside over a signing of several Memorandum of Understandings MOUs in education and agriculture. He is also scheduled to attend various investment forums and visit Vietnam's late revolutionary leader Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum before departing on Wednesday. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parilla has begun the first leg of his European tour in Spain, where he met with Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy. Mr. Rodriguez Parilla will also meet his Spanish counterpart Antonio Dastes and Spain's King Felipe of Spain. It is the first official visit to Spain by Cuban Foreign Minister since 2008. Mr. Rodriguez Parilla will visit Portugal on the 19th to 20th of April and Greece on the 21st of April. Stay with us for more international news after this short break.
We're celebrating 50 golden years of uniting 10 magnificent nations where over 650 million hearts beat. We stand together for one vision, one community, one ASEAN. Our beauty and diversity is unparalleled. Discover a land of stunning natural wonders and home to the world's most incredible creatures. Seek thrills and adventures of a lifetime. Immerse yourself in our rich traditions, diverse cultures, and fascinating history. Feel the warmth of people with hearts of gold. Indulge in exquisite cuisines and fresh flavors. Uncover ancient cities, enchanting stories, and treasured legends. Witness history in the making. Marvel at vibrant cities, towering skyscrapers, and rapid transportation. Embrace the moment and make memories that will last forever. Join us for our golden celebration. Come visit ASEAN for our 50th anniversary in 2017.
A video uploaded to a social media website purports to show children injured in the Aleppo bus explosion receiving medical aid at a field hospital in Idlib, Syria. The footage purports to show several children said to be from the towns of Kafraya and Al-Fua, according to the video caption, sleeping in hospital beds. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group said the death toll from a bomb attack on a crowded bus convoy outside Aleppo reached at least 126. The observatory and the United Nations cited reports that more than 60 children were among the dead, and those killed were mostly residents of the villages of Al-Fua and Kafraya in Idlib province, but included rebel fighters guarding the convoy. Somalian security forces have shot dead 2 extremist fighters who were involved in a mortar attack in the Somali capital. According to the security forces captain, they pursued and clashed with armed men who had fired mortar shells near Mogadishu's international airport. 2 of the insurgents were killed and the attackers detonated a minibus they were traveling in. No other casualties from the blast have been reported, and the Al-Shabaab, which is allied to Al-Qaeda, has claimed the responsibility for the mortar attack. The 21st Century Maritime Silk Road has greatly promoted trade between China and Europe and boosted economic growth in the countries along the route over the past few years. According to China's Commerce Ministry, trade volume between China and the countries along the Belt and Road reached $848.9 billion in the first 11 months of 2016, accounting for more than a quarter of China's total foreign trade. More than 50 economic cooperation zones have been set up in about 20 countries along the Belt and Road with a total investment of $18 billion. The establishment of the economic zones are expected to bring in more than $1 billion in tax revenues each year and create over 160,000 jobs in these countries. An integral part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road is principally a sea route from the South China Sea and Southeast Asia through the Indian Ocean and Middle East area into the Eastern Mediterranean. It also extends in other directions. Its main feature is port infrastructure projects, some linking with parts of the land-based project, the Silk Road Economic Belt. The building and upgrading of maritime infrastructure have led to greater flows of goods, people and capital, making the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road the busiest trade route in the world. Preparation for launching China's first cargo spacecraft Tianzhu-1 entered final stage as the spacecraft and its carrier rocket were transported to the launch tower today in Wenchang Space Launch Center in South China's Hainan province. The transportation of Tianzhu-1 and its carrier rocket Long March 7 Y2 began at 7:30 a.m. today and took about 2.5 hours. According to China Manned Space Engineering Office CMSEO, the spacecraft and its carrier was transported to the launch site in February, and after assembling and a series of testing, the rocket spacecraft combination was installed onto the tower. After the transportation, the combination needs to pass another series of tests. It is expected to be launched sometime between April 20th to 24th. Tianzhu-1, which literally means heavenly vessel, will be able to send about 5 tons of cargo into space. It will be able to provide supplies for China's future orbiting space station. Tianzhu-1 will dock with the Tiangong-2 Space Lab 3 times to test in orbit liquid propellant refueling. The mission is a crucial step towards China's goal of establishing its own space station around 2022.
就意味着我们的这次任务已经进入到最后的决战决胜阶段了。目前，发射场的一切工作进展顺利，状态良好。我们已经为最后的。
662 people dressed as a tramp character gathered in Switzerland for a world record of the largest number of people dressed as Charlie Chaplin's most famous character and gathered in the same place. Organized by and at the world's only museum dedicated to the director, the event celebrated Charlie Chaplin's 128th birth anniversary as well as the museum's first year. For €14 a ticket, participants were given a moustache, a stick and a hat to help them embody the tramp. The participants, mostly families, attended the event to celebrate Easter and pay tribute to Charlie Chaplin and his humanist values. A year after its opening, almost 300,000 visitors have visited the museum. The museum's managing director and Charlie Chaplin's son, Eugene Chaplin, believe that the humanist and universal values, as well as Chaplin's contemporaneous message in his movies, are the reasons that still make the character so popular nowadays. The success of the museum has also had an impact on local tourism, increasing the tourism in Montreal, Switzerland, municipality also known for its renowned jazz festival. Sports news coming up next. In international sports, 2 English Premier League matches took place last night for match day 32 out of 38. Liverpool stayed on course for a place in next season's UEFA Champions League with a 1-0 win against West Bromwich Albion at the Hawthorns, while Manchester United ignited the Premier League title race with a 2-0 victory over Chelsea. Let's take a look at the Premier League current standings. Manchester United opened up the Premier League title race with a convincing 2-0 home victory over leaders Chelsea that leaves second-place Tottenham Hotspur just 4 points behind. Goals by Marcus Rashford and Ander Herrera sank Chelsea, and with 6 games left for the top 2, there is little room for any more slip-ups by Antonio Conte's side, who a few weeks ago looked like they were running away with the title.
Played really well, very solid performance. We gave them double problems. We gave them problems when they had the ball, because we controlled very well. And we gave them problems.
Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho hailed his defensive midfielders Ander Herrera and Matteo Darmian for a special performance after the win. Mourinho added that the key to beating Chelsea was eliminating the threat they posed through Eden Hazard and Pedro working behind Diego Costa, and also their effectiveness in wide positions on the counter-attack. Chelsea manager Antonio Conte said he was to blame for the loss to Manchester United at Old Trafford, saying he had failed to motivate his players enough.
To win this game, I think is very simple. But
Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel won the Bahrain Grand Prix to go 7 points clear at the top of the Formula One standings, with Mercedes rival Lewis Hamilton staging a late charge to finish second after picking up a time penalty. Hamilton's Finnish teammate Valtteri Bottas started on pole position for the first time in his career and ended up third. The victory was Vettel's second of the season after the 4-time world champion won the opener in Australia. Hamilton, who won in China last weekend, crossed the floodlit finish line 6.6 seconds behind. Vettel's 44th win lifted him to 68 points, with Hamilton second on 61. Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen finished 4th, with Australian Daniel Ricciardo 5th for Red Bull and Brazilian Felipe Massa 6th for Williams on the 75th birthday of team founder Frank Williams. Mexican Sergio Perez finished 7th for Force India, his 13th successive points finish, with Frenchman Romain Grosjean 8th for Haas. Germany's Nico Hülkenberg was 9th for Renault, that team's first points of the year, and French rookie Esteban Ocon bagged the final point for Force India. McLaren's nightmare continued, with Belgian Stoffel van Doorn failing to start and Fernando Alonso retiring on the final laps but classified 14th. We bring you the weather forecast next. The general local weather condition for the next 24 hours is expected to be partly cloudy with showers or thunder showers over a few areas. Tonight, the weather is expected to be partly cloudy with showers or thunder showers which will affect several areas. There will be risk of flash flood during heavy downpour, especially at low-lying and flood-prone areas. Sea state is light at 0.4 to 1 meters high, and wind is from northeast or southeast at 5 to 15 kilometers per hour. Tomorrow morning, the weather will remain partly cloudy but with some early morning showers. Sea is still slight at 0.5 to 1 meters high, and wind is from southwest at 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. In the afternoon, showers or thunder showers are expected during the afternoon, especially over inland areas. Again, there will be risk of flash flood during heavy downpour, especially at low-lying and flood-prone areas. Sea is similar as tomorrow morning, and wind is from northwest at 10 to 25 kilometers per hour. Wallahu alam bis-sawab. Now a look at the forecast for Brunei Darussalam for the next 3 days and the weather for some of the main cities around the world. To end the bulletin, let's ponder over the hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ narrated by Imam Ahmad on how a prayer or supplication would be granted. The hadith says, verily, one who wishes for his prayer to be answered and his difficulties solved should help people who are facing hardship or difficulty. That concludes news at 10 for this evening. Good night and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.